All right, guys, welcome back. So we are here at the 5th installment of the video. I'm going to try to make it through this one without my allergies going crazy. We shall see. If I can't, I apologize up front. All right. So some of the tools, we already went over. You guys see them in the last video, which were the direct selection tool, the selection tool, the lasso tool, the group selection tool. We also went over what was the other ones? The shape tools. We didn't go over every single one. They're pretty self-explanatory. The ones that we didn't go over, these should be self-explanatory. The rectangle, ellipse, polygon, star, if you want to make those shapes. And then, so there's the line segment tool, which also should be self-explanatory. But I'm going to show you this because I had a student who made his entire drawings using the line tool. So I was like, that's kind of cool. So this is the line tool. It pretty much works by you just making lines. You can hold Alt to extend the line, which is what I'm doing right now, as you're making it and stuff like that. So that's the line tool in a nutshell. Shift is also going to help you constrain the line tool. So, but what happens is with the line tool, if you combine it with, say, the selection tool, you can take and you can manipulate shapes and it in whatever ways that are going to work for you as well. Notice I'm just really, all I'm doing is taking and moving the shapes around, manipulating them like we talked about, where I can hover over the edge and put it in place. But I really did. I had a student, I'd never seen that before, and that was kind of cool. He actually created all of his projects using the line tool itself. And I was like, wow, that's crazy, but crazy cool. So and he was creating some complex stuff. So so now I'm a bigger fan of it than I was before. So that's kind of cool. But that's the line tool. Pretty much, as you can see, all I'm doing is doing things and putting it together, and then you can manipulate it, and then later on you can actually join all of these lines together into one. And I'll show you those things when we get to those tools. But I just want to show you pretty much that's the line tool, and making stuff with it. So that's kind of cool. Let me shorten this because I'm going to need this area. Okay. So that's the line tool. That's how it works. If you want to know how to join it real quick, if I were to, let's just say so I have the selection tool, which is really only going to, select those objects. But if I go back to the direct selection tool and I select these 2 points, now I have 2 points that I can group together, and I can either go to object and I can go down to, I think it's path and join, or I can hit Command J, and now it combines these two into one shape. So now when I move it out of the way, let's go back to, I'm going to hit V so I can get my selection tool. And you'll see that now that has been joined as one shape. So when I'm moving it, it's no longer moving like the individual parts. It's moving that as one shape because it's been joined together. All right. So you can join pretty much anything. That is how you manipulate the paths, by joining one path to another. And that is really what he did in his whole project. So that was kind of cool. So that's the line tool. And then the only other tool, this rectangular grid tool, I'll show you this. I use this for a lot of things, and it's kind of cool, especially for really, really cool backgrounds. So actually, I'm going to hide Goku for now. I'm not Goku. What's his name? Goten for now. All right, just so that I can have more room. So if I wanted to use this as a background, I can, and I can manipulate it and make it work. And I might make that an advanced video just to show you guys how to do it as well. So, but for now, just know that what it is it's just a grid, and you can move it around. You can add it to your background. Somehow, let's say you wanted this to be some really cool let me see. Let me manipulate it, bring it around. Um, let's say you wanted it to sit in the background, like really light gray. And maybe I'll change the color, click on it. Go to like the light gray, just so that it's not obtrusive. It's just back there as a background element sitting back there for whatever reason. You can also further manipulate what the shape's going to look like, and maybe you're going to put it as a background behind this or something like that. So maybe it sits back there. Also, if you want to move it to the back and you're having any issues, if you right click on it, all a fan of right clicking and you go to arrange, you can send to back. So with this, we can send stuff forward. If you go, and a lot of questions are, what's the difference between backward, front, and back? I'm sorry, forward, front, and backward, and back. So if I send something to the front, that means I'm taking it all the way to the front of the whole layer stack. So that means over here where the layers are, I'm moving it all the way to the front. If I take it forward, then that just means I'm moving it forward one object at a time. So it's going to go one object, one path, one path, one path. Same with backward. If I take it all the way back, it's going to go all the way to the bottom of the layer stack in that layer. But if I just take it backward, I'm taking it in the step-by-step process of taking it back. So I might put this all the way to the back. Notice at the bottom of my layer, you'll see that at the bottom, I have this grouping down here, which is where it's gone. And now if I click on it, you'll see that it's no longer in front. I have it as a background element to these other elements. So it's kind of cool. There's so many ways you can manipulate this as well, because this, if I zoom out, also becomes, if I click on the direct selection tool to make that active, all of these are still points and paths. So if I wanted to manipulate this one, this point, I'm in the group selection tool. All right. But also notice how that just selected that one group. But if I wanted direct selection tool and I wanted to do something kind of different with, this, I can still manipulate it. Let's say I wanted to, I don't know, stagger these for whatever reason. I want to show something going out of the box, or even something grid style, you know what I mean? Not grid, what is it, chart style, where I'm showing some type of progression or stuff like that. But I can still manipulate these however I want. I can, go a little further and go with some other tools and like curve these and things like that. So that's what that does. It's a pretty cool thing to have. I'm going to get the selection tool so I can move them all at once and move that over there. Okay. So that's what that tool does. That's a tool that I didn't go over, but it's pretty, and we probably won't go over everything, but just play. It's same as in Photoshop. You don't know what you don't know. We don't have time to go through everything. So really, really just play as much as you can. All right. But in this video, I do want to go over the pen tool, the curvature tool. Those are my main two tools that I want to go over. And if we don't go over too much time, then we'll go over the paintbrush tool and stuff like that. But the main thing I want to do is the pen tool. So this is the pen tool. It's the third tool down. Inside of here is the pen tool and the anchor point tool, and we'll go over both of those. But in the pen tool, what it's going to allow us to do is manipulate shapes. So all I'm doing, let me zoom in. All I'm doing is clicking and clicking. And I didn't hold anything, so it's not necessarily a straight click, but all I'm doing is pointing, clicking right now, and that's it. But notice when I click, there is this kind of guide that shows. That's what this is. And that guide shows you where your next point is going. So right now I have it, and if I click, it's going to place a point there, but I can also go this way and it's placing a point there. You got to see that. So I can kind of manipulate what happens, and what direction I go in, and see it happening before I even do it with the pen tool. Okay. So right now I have an open path. That means that this whole thing is open. I haven't closed it at any point like a circle. It's open, kind of like a donut would be, it's kind of like a half donut would be, or the letter C would be. And then the donut would be a closed path because it actually closes. Okay. So right now I have an open path, and that's what's happening. And as I hover, notice I hovered, I haven't done anything, but you'll see that when you hover over it, it tells you, oh, you're on an anchor point, which is kind of cool. So if I go here, it's going to tell me I'm on an anchor point. But also notice it's got under the pen tool. Remember I told you it's going to show you those tools. It's got that circle. So what that circle means is I can close the path. Notice it's a closed circle. So anytime you see that closed circle, depending on what you're trying to do, if you're trying to make sure that these paths are closed, that closed circle is going to be your friend. I'm not going to close it yet because I want to show you something. So I have this path that I've drawn. So I'm going to go back to my selection tool, right? So let's say I wanted to put some color in here. I mean, actual color, like in the fill. Remember, this is fill and stroke. So let's say I wanted to fill this fill with color. I'm going to double click and I'm going to get the color picker. So I'm going to choose some color. Maybe I'll go greens. I said gray, sorry, greens. All right, so I'm going to choose that color. Now I filled this path, okay, which is kind of cool. But what happens when I do this is it looks like it's a closed path, right? Doesn't it? But you know that I didn't close that path because when we were looking, the circle was over there. So this is not a closed path. It is an open path. Okay, I would need to close this. So what happens is when you go to do certain things and you're like, oh, this isn't filling right, or this isn't showing exactly how I want it to show, make sure those paths are closed because it's just too easy not to. Now you saw that I clicked off of it and you might be like, well, how do I go back in and close that path? So I'm going to go back to my pen tool, and this is where, though, and notice there are two tools. So this is the pen tool. There's nothing coming out from it in its icon. It's just a pen. Down below it is a different pen tool, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. It's called the Curvature Tool, but it has a little tail coming out at the pen. So just make sure you're aware of that. So what I'm going to do to get back to being able to manipulate this path is I'm going to make sure I have the pen tool. I'm going to hover. When I hover, if my pen shows that slash, see down at the bottom, there's a little slash, I can continue this path. So I'm going to click on that. And now I'm back in. See, I'm back in. See how my pen tool now is following me, showing me where my next step is. And if I hover over it and I get the circle, now it's telling me I can close this path. So when I go ahead and close it, now I have a closed path. So if I click off, it is a fully closed path. We can see the stroke and how it is right there. So I'm going to undo. What I'm going to do is increase that stroke. So what I want to do is I'm going to go over to the properties panel. And in the properties panel, you see, remember this changes based off of what is selected. This properties panel is context sensitive. So because I have the shape selected and because I'm in the selection tool, we're seeing the options for me, okay, to manipulate this. Context sensitive, so it just depends on what is selected for what it shows. So it pretty much shows what you would typically be looking for, of changing if you're in a shape, fill, stroke, opacity, and those type of things. And that's why it's showing me that. So I'm going to change the stroke color. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually also going to change the stroke size. I'm going to go over here where it says stroke, and I'm going to boost up the size a little bit. And you'll see that it's boosting because I'm changing the size here. So I changed it to 5 points. So now clearly we can see that this is not a closed path at 5 points. I'm actually going to change the color just to show you how to change the color. So if I click on stroke over here, you're going to see your color panel come up, color palette come up. And so I could change the color to maybe hot pink if I wanted to make it vivid and exciting. I could change the hot pink, or I could change it to maybe an orange or something like that to set that up. So I'm going to keep it hot pink since it's an exciting color. And just so that you guys can see what I'm talking about. All right, so I'm going to close that. And now, so I have this hot pink stroke, and you can see that that is not a closed path, clearly. So what happens is when you go to make another shape and you're like wondering why this shape is interacting with a new shape weirdly, check that path. It could be because that path isn't closed. Okay. Sometimes this color will spill out, so there are a lot of things that'll happen. But I'm going to go back into my pen tool, select that, and now I got the slash, right? So I wanted that slash. I can click that. Now I'm back into this shape, and I'm going to close the shape here. And now we have a perfectly closed shape, and everything should be happy. All right. So that's pretty much how we can do like straight lines with the pen tool. There are more stuff. All we did though with this is it was a point, click, point, click, point, click, and it fills in color. Point, click. Okay. And see how like right here is not filling the color. That's because I have an open path. If I close that path, now I have an exact shape. All right. And your project might not call for yours to be closed. Maybe you're creating something that you want to have open, and that's fine too. I just wanted you to understand what's happening. You know, that it's an open shape. So if you want to close it, close it. If it works for yours not being closed, cool. Then keep it open. So, all right. And if you want to escape that tool, what I just hit was the escape key because I wanted to escape the pen tool. Because if you don't, you'll be in the pen tool and you'll be trying to do something else. And you're like, oh, how do I get the pen tool to stop? How do I escape it? Just hit escape, and it'll stop the tool. Or you can choose a different tool. So you have several ways to do it. So if I was still in the pen tool, which I am now, and I choose another tool, then it also stops that pen tool. So that's how you get out of it. Now, that was the pen tool, straight lines. That's all I wanted. What if I want curved lines with the pen tool? Well, what I want to do is click on the pen tool and click. And then, so all I did was click and I let go of the mouse, right? But so several ways. I can click and not let go of the mouse. And then when I move the mouse left or right, I can control what direction the next point is drawn, right? So I am, see that? Look at that, right? I got the rubber band. This is my one thumb going back, and the other finger pulling that rubber band. There it is. And now, notice now though, when I let go, now I have where I can curve it, but it's kind of telling me where I'm going. See that curved line? That rubber band is curving. So now I can say, okay, the next shape I want is here. So if I just click, it's going to draw that shape. Well, I'll just show you. If I just click, it draws that shape, and then my next line is going to be straight. Okay. So I'm just, oh, okay. And then if I want another curved line, I can do a few things. I can click and then drag while I'm holding down the mouse, right? I can click and drag, all right? So like if I know, oh, I want to go here with my shape, I just clicked and I dragged it, and then I can go here and I can just click and it's going to make the straight point. So we have curved points, as you guys can see here, or curved paths, and then we have straight paths, which is from here to here, and that's the point and click. So I'm going to go ahead and go to this other one. And now I can manipulate the shape here by just pulling. So I definitely want you guys to play. And now, so I have a very interesting shape that's here. So that's the straight lines here. And I also have a pen tool exercise that you guys can do. You don't have to, but you can do. And it's going to help you with the pen tool. But that right there is just a few things that I want to go over the pen tool. We're going to go more in depth in later ones, depending on how far you want to go with the pen tool. But so straight is just clicking, okay? And then manipulating with curves is clicking and dragging, and I can say, ooh, this is what, So, all right, so let me see what else I want to go over in this one. Oh, if we want to manipulate the points, let's say right here, let's say the one that we did straight, this one, that we now want curves in it. So I can go up to the pen tool and click on this anchor point tool, or I can hit Shift C, whichever one works for you. And now I can hover over any line, any. And once I hover over it, you're going to see that black arrow and this little curved path with points below it. Now I can bring it out and kind of manipulate these points or this path by just clicking and, and sheer manipulation. I can move in the handle some if I want, to modify the paths of each one if I wanted to. So you have options, right? You have options of play. This is why you can pretty much create almost really anything in Illustrator, which is awesome. Also, so we have these points and paths. So that's pretty much going to allow us to manipulate points and paths. But what's also cool is if I click on this shape that I created earlier, let me move it up a little bit. And I wanted to, let me go to the pen tool. And if I wanted to, again, just manipulate any point and path or subtract points, notice I can hover over a point and it's giving me the subtraction. So remember, the slash is how I continue from leaving a point, right? So that's what the slash was. Now I have a minus. And what this minus means is that, I can subtract points from my design. So if I wanted this gone, if I wanted this gone, I can go in and I can subtract those points from my design. Likewise, though, if I hit the plus, the real plus, hang on. Yeah. If I hit the plus that's not in the numbers pad, I have to hit the plus that's on the keyboard at the top, then I can manipulate, I can add points to it. So let's say I want to add a point here. I click on it because I have the plus sign. And now I can do something with that point. I can click on that and add points to this, and maybe click on this and add points to this. So what I can do now is if I get the direct selection tool, you guys are going to see how these work together. I can click on that point that I made and manipulate it just a little further by just clicking on the point. And like I said, we'll go further. The pen tool we're going to go in depth with because it is one of the most important tools in Illustrator. Now you can get a lot of stuff done with the other tools too, because they shape builder and things like that, which we'll go over as well. But this pen tool is just amazing, and it's amazing in Photoshop, and they work pretty much the same way. So it is an amazing tool. So I don't think we're going to get to the brush tool in this video. I think that's pretty much all I want to go over with the pen tool with you in this video. But the next tool is the Freeform Pen Tool, and I want to show you how that works. Curvature Pen Tool. And how this works is it's just going to make like curves. Notice how I created that shape and it has curves. So it's going to curve around. So if I wanted to see, I was just curving naturally. For me, I can, go and curve. So I have the Curvature Pen Tool. Definitely a fun tool to play with. A lot of people use this one only. They don't even use the pen tool. So I do want you to know that you have that option as well. But it does exactly what it says. It's a curvature pen tool. So it creates curves. You can further manipulate it though if you wanted, say you wanted to control the curve. If you're holding shift, you can constrain it. So it's pretty much going to make sure that, like, if you wanted a perfect circle, even though you have the circle tool, you can make a perfect circle with this one pretty easy. Just constrain it, constrain it. Okay. So you can make sure that your stuff is circular, and you can make a perfect circle. I just don't have guides and stuff set out for me to make sure that it's perfect, but it's a pretty cool tool to use. If you want your lines to be straight, then you just hold Option, and you have the straight lines the same as you would with the regular pen tool as well. Okay, Option or Alt, depending on what you're working in. What else with this tool? And that's pretty much it. It makes your curves. So that's your Curvature Pen Tool. It's pretty cool. It's pretty easy to use. And then you have your pen tool. So, you be the judge of which one you want to use, which one's going to work in your design. So when we come back, we'll go over the paintbrush tool and start going into some of the other fun tools. But the goals of this series of these videos is pretty much to show you the tools, how they work, and then let you go and play. And then in the end, I'll have a video where I'm showing you me trace out this character drawing using all of the tools together to kind of show you how they can work. So I will see you in the next video in a few.